Leave it. Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Northeast Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. The jet stream on this Friday morning, very similar look here. This trough in the west, ridge in the east, that has kept summer-like conditions locked in across much of the Corn Belt, and some of that extending over here into the Northeast region. The next 10 days, keeping warmer temperatures in the Northeast here, especially over the next 5. Looking at the precipitation forecast, seeing two corridors setting up here, one from the Dakotas into portions of Canada here, and then another corridor that's supposed to be active here from the Texas Panhandle through the Great Lakes. That includes a big chunk of the central and eastern Corn Belt. Looks like it's going to be drier overall for the next week across the Northeast region. We'll take a look at that here in depth. For the last 24 hours, we've seen some showers and storms across parts of the Corn Belt here into the Great Lakes. Lots of precipitation down here towards the south from Imelda. Over 40 inches of rain in some locations of southeast Texas. Just incredibly heavy rain. Some of that moisture is slowly making its way northward into the Midwest. That's going to set the stage for some heavier rain from Kansas into Illinois over the weekend. Looking at the satellite picture, we've had a front kind of draped in this region yesterday. It's washing out, but we do still see some showers and storms along that boundary here Friday morning. Watching the west, though, for the next developing storm system, the next upper level wave, you see kind of the counterclockwise flow in the atmosphere as this next upper level low makes its way eastward across the Central Plains, and then eventually bringing some rain near to the Northeast region, but I think most of that going to be staying out of here. Over the next, here's the frontal picture here as we get started on Friday morning. Again, here's that washed out boundary that's kind of dissipating here across Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. The next organizing storm system is going to be found here over the Intermountain West. As we head into the day on Sunday, it looks like this. We've got an area of low pressure across Kansas, extending a front northward that extends from an area of low pressure across Ontario. All kinds of southeasterly flow coming in ahead of this frontal boundary around this area of low pressure, pumping Gulf moisture ahead, keeping things very wet, very stormy. We'll be hearing about some heavy rain from Kansas to Illinois over the weekend, but again, high pressure keeping it dry across the Northeast region over the weekend. The next 3 days, severe weather outlooks here is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No severe weather in the forecast here across the Northeast region. All of it going to be focused along that frontal boundary from the northern plains, slowly sinking southward into the Ohio River Valley. And taking a look at the high-resolution NAM model, the precipitation forecast all the way through Sunday. And that, again, keeps all the rain and thunderstorm out of the out of the Northeast region as we head through, a big chunk of the weekend, keeping things stormy across this region from the northern plains into the Central Plains and the Ohio River Valley. The total accumulated precipitation forecast from the high-resolution NAM model, understand we do have a lot of precipitation that's going to be falling here that's not picked up by this model Sunday afternoon, evening, and overnight. But again, keeping things dry across the Northeast region through the weekend. And looking at the precipitable water forecast, this kind of helps us visualize the pattern. We're looking at the moisture content in the atmosphere, basically saying if you look straight up how much moisture is between you and the stratosphere, if we bring it all out, and of course some very heavy values, very high values here across the Gulf Coast with Imelda's remnants streaming northward and then colliding with that front here from Kansas to Illinois, and that's what sets the stage for the heavy rain this weekend. Now heading through the next 10 days or so, we'll bring it back here. We'll kind of cycle through, watching for some of that moisture to kind of make its way in here to the Northeast region early next week, but a front brings a reinforcing shot of some drier air to the region. And that's the theme as you focus on the Northeast region with this loop, whereas across the central parts of the Corn Belt from Kansas to Illinois, notice the difference here. In this corridor here, you keep these high values just pumping in across the region. If we just play it back here for the next 10 days or so, you're watching wave after wave of these high moisture air masses making their way in here, and that keeps it active from the Central Plains into the Midwest here across parts of the Corn Belt. Now, what's different about the Northeast, where I circled up here, you're watching wave after wave of drier air come punching in from the north and the west. You're watching, there's one, here comes another one, here Comes another one. So these crashing fronts bringing this cooler and drier air into the region is just not supportive of repetitive rounds of heavy rain and thunderstorms. So a drier pattern over the next 7 to 10 days across the northeast region. That's illustrated here by the GFS model. Take it back here, getting us through the weekend, watching for storms to slowly make their way south and east along this frontal boundary as we head through the weekend from the Dakotas into the eastern Corn Belt. Keeping things pretty dry across the northeast, though. A chance for maybe some showers and storms making their way across the region Monday into Monday night as that first front sweeps through. Then we dry out again, maybe a chance of an isolated shower, though this front really struggles as we head into the late part of the week. And then we really get out into a low confidence time frame here. We're out 10 days in the future now, all the way into next weekend. And the only shots of precipitation you saw there were kind of around that Monday frontal passage, and then perhaps again late next week with low precipitation odds. So really a dry next 7 to 10 days. The National Blended Model will show this once again. 2 corridors that remain active here over the next 10 days. This is 10 days of precipitation here, and those corridors are across the northern plains into southern Canada, and then here from the central and southern plains into parts of the Corn Belt. Really dry from the southeast all the way into the northeast region. Looking at the overall pattern here, as we get started here, we'll bring it back to Friday morning. Here's this trough west, ridge east pattern that's kept it warmer across much of the central and eastern U.S. We go through a bit of a transition phase as this first wave makes its way through the Midwest over the weekend. But as we get into the middle to late parts of next week, we see the exact same pattern setting up. This big ridge over the Gulf of Alaska, the Pacific Ocean, trough in the west, and then a ridge in the east. That could mean warmer temperatures spilling back into the Midwest and eventually the Northeast region as we head into the last few days of September. Your next 5 days of high temperatures across the Northeast region in the 70s for the most part today. Warming up slightly Saturday and Sunday. Again, we've got this approaching front, but warm air advection out ahead of that. So again, warming up as we head into the weekend. Cooling off as we head into next week. That front moves through on Monday, knocking us down into the 70s once again with 60s for your high temperatures on Tuesday. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning Ag Forecast video, and I'll be back to talk about the Northeast region on Tuesday morning. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.